And it is absolutely ridiculous that in this year of 2024, we are still massively debating if we can elect a female to be in charge of this country. I mean, it's a sad conversation to me.
No one's
Okay.
having that conversation though. That's like 20, 30 years ago.
As we've been reporting, our colleague, the Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich, has been released from prison in Russia, along with a number of other falsely detained people. Joe Biden addressed the media from the airstrip just after greeting Evan and two others. Dustin Olson, Joe Biden said that Donald Trump said that only he could pull off a prisoner swap like this. He was wrong, wasn't he?
I guess so. Also, it's possible that as a pollster, and that's what I focus on, the numbers, it does look like that Donald Trump will likely be returning to the White House. So I do think they see a new sheriff heading into town. One of the things that I think is just wonderful that this did happen, though Russia did get some things that they wanted out of it. And unfortunately, when that happens, you're more likely to see more people get taken later. But yes, I'm happy for the families, happy for our country, and happy that these people could come home.
And would you give the Biden administration some credit?
Of course.
What do you think the impact of this, Nicole, is going to be on the presidential race, if any?
I don't think it has a huge impact on the race itself. I think we can celebrate as Americans these, folks coming home and, hope that we can continue to have some celebrations for that. And, but I don't think that it's going to have a huge effect on either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris and the way Americans take a look at how they're making a choice about the next 4 years.
Do you think there's anything in what Justin was saying that Donald Trump can take some credit because it looks like he's going to be the next president? And I suppose that could be argued, made Russia feel that they had to do a deal?
No. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump says that, but that's not what happened here. And I think it would be a shame if that's what the Trump campaign decided to take away from this.
And how do you feel about the way in which both Biden and Kamala Harris were there on the tarmac, the way in which they presented this positive news to the American people?
Well, look, Kamala Harris is the sitting vice president of the United States. She's part of this administration. She's been part of this ticket the whole time. So, I mean, that makes absolute sense. She would have been there if she was the sitting vice president and not the current nominee. So I don't think they treated it any differently based on the fact of what the race is right now. She has been a part of this administration. This is a huge moment for America and for these families. So it makes sense that she was part of it. That's normal.
Are you worried that this could be interpreted as a sign of weakness in as much as an FSB hitman, Vadim Krasikov, has now been returned to Russia after the US put pressure on Germany?
I mean, look, this is how prisoner swaps work. There's a swap. I don't know every single item of intelligence that our intelligence community does. So I hope that they have made what they think is the best decision to ensure that some innocent Americans are able to come home to their families. And what they decided to do in exchange for that is what makes sense for our foreign policy and for the world.
Now, Dustin, you said you're not too bothered really about what's happened because you think that, according to the polls, Trump is going to win. I have to say I've seen quite a lot of analysis showing that the chances of the Democrats have improved quite a lot in a number of polls since Kamala Harris came on board. Why are you so confident?
Well, so we released a poll yesterday, national poll, and I'm a pollster for both Democrats and Republicans, so we come at this pretty straightforward as far as the numbers go, and it definitely has improved. The numbers about 3 weeks ago, the bottom was falling out for Joe Biden, and it was obvious that it was actually possible that a landslide could happen in the fall, and then they swapped out their candidate, and things have definitely improved over the last 2 weeks. So we have the race nationally a 0.5% either way. So 0.5% up for Donald Trump if you include people who lean that way. If you don't include leaners, it's a 0.5% for Kamala Harris. And by context, 4 years ago and 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton was up by about 4 in the national at that time, and Joe Biden was up by about 7.3. So when it comes to the national polling, usually a Democrat has to have a pretty good lead if they're going to win in the swing states. In our breakout of the swing states, we have Donald Trump up by about 4.3%, which is similar to what they have in the Real Clear average of Real Clear Politics average of polls. So that is still where it's at. Now, I do think it's going to continue to improve a little bit for Kamala Harris. A couple of things that we look to in our polling to get a sense for where the numbers might be in a couple of weeks are things like favorability and energy. So right now, one of the things that's been interesting to watch over the last 3 weeks, 3 weeks ago, Kamala Harris was less popular than Joe Biden in the average of polls for favorability. And it's been amazing to watch with, I would call it pretty favorable coverage in the media here over the last 2 weeks, that's changed considerably and her favorability has gone up quite a bit. So I'd actually expect her to have another couple percent improvement in her standing, at least for the next month or so. And another thing that has improved is people who say they're definitely going to vote for the Democratic nominee. It's now close to even with the Republicans, so that's improved as well as the generic ballot has also improved for Democrats, though that's not outside of the margin used to be for them to, but it definitely has made a difference. They went with the most extreme reset that you can imagine and throwing out their candidate and bringing someone new in, and it has had an impact in the race for sure.
Nicole, how are you reading shifts in public opinion in this race?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been a new life and energy breathed into the Democratic Party. There's an excitement about her candidacy, and we're seeing it up and down the ballot, not just in the presidential election, but in our Senate races, in our House congressional races. So it's really exciting. I mean, we can all see a plethora of polls that are out there that are showing it's a whole different race. Really, she's pulled it to tide in so many of the key battleground states, which just wasn't happening under Joe Biden, which is how this decision was made by Mr. Biden, that he saw what was happening and decided it was best for the country to let the person who the Democratic Party had selected on his ticket get his endorsement. The party has rallied around that. They could have had the opportunity to force some sort of delegate decision or votes at convention, but the party and the other elected officials, the important organizations that are the fabric of it, really the grassroots. I mean, you're seeing it's not just the sheer amount of money that's been raised online, but it's how many new donors have come and are contributing. I mean, that's really showing you so much excitement for this candidacy, and America is getting to know the vice president right now. I mean, that is the reality, is that they've known some things about her, but there is a lot to learn, and I think that's exciting for the Democratic Party too, because they're excited to talk about who she is and what she wants to do for the next 4 years.
Research done for the Times looking at polling shows that there is an increasing gender gap between men and women in terms of their voting intentions. Dustin, do you think that it'll be women who really are the key to who emerges as president on November the 5th?
Possibly, though, really what I've seen in the numbers, and this is interesting in our numbers that came out yesterday morning, we had Donald Trump with 22.3% support of the African-American vote, which is a historic high and something we haven't seen in our polling. And that seems to be something that he's continued to grow. And that's largely based off of Black men. Then additionally, he's winning Hispanics by about 5%, which is also would be a pretty big deal. And that's largely based off of men moving to Donald Trump. So there is a gender gap. And I think it's actually a problem for Democrats that they're from their traditional coalition, they're losing men, and that's going to be a problem for them going forward. So that's what I'm seeing as far as the actual numbers.
I mean, it is a pretty stark difference that Kamala Harris is 11 points ahead, apparently, amongst women in some polls, whereas Donald Trump is 18 points ahead amongst men.
Yep. Exactly. It's really the thing that people don't talk about, but it's also showing up with young voters as well. That young men in particular are moving to Donald Trump. Something I would not have predicted 4 years ago that that's where we'd be, but it is where we are. I was skeptical for months that this was actually happening within a lot of the publicly available polls, but now in our own actual polls, this is what's happening. So I think it's definitely probably policy related, and that's something we haven't talked about yet. But really, when it comes to the issues, the issue mix benefits Republicans. So as much as they can get to talking about policy, inflation, and immigration, these are things that most people consider to be the top issues, and Republicans have a pretty big advantage there, especially among men.
Nicole, do you think that's true?
Well, I think it's a whole different game with the vice president at the top of the ticket, and she was anxious and eager to talk about the economy. There's no doubt that that is always going to be an important issue for the American public, men and women, to discuss. But certainly, we're also going to talk about freedoms. We're going to talk about what did the Republicans do when Donald Trump was in charge and how they pulled back women's ability to make decisions about their own bodies. And she's going to keep talking about that, and she's going to keep hammering it. And there's no question that Black women have been the backbone of the Democratic Party. And, this is an exciting moment for them. It's an exciting moment for a lot of people to have this historic candidacy right in front of us and this chance to make some amazing history with someone who is a prosecutor, who is an attorney general, who's a United States senator that grilled Brett Kavanaugh during his Supreme Court hearings, and has a great vision for hope and the freedom of America in the future.
Do you think, Nicole, that there is a resistance in large parts of the American electorate to the idea of a woman president?
I think we phrase that question all the time and let people think, oh my gosh, what should we do? Should we have a woman president? It's time. We should not be, it's exciting to have it be historic. There's no doubt about that. I would love for my daughter to be able to see this, but not just because she's a woman, because she is an extremely capable person who can lead this country for the next 4 years and who knows what America needs. And that is something that I think American voters can also do. We talked about this before Obama was elected in 2008. Are we ready? Can we do it? Will it happen? Yes. If the person is someone who is the right person to lead America, we can do this. And it is absolutely ridiculous that in this year of 2024, we are still massively debating if we can elect a female to be in charge of this country. I mean, it's a sad conversation to me.
No one's having that conversation, though. That's like 20, 30 years ago. Nobody's having that conversation at this point. I don't think, I've not seen it in the polling, verbatims or anything like that. Nobody's questioning whether we can have a female president. It's not even a topic in this country.
So you don't think that there is a prejudice against the idea? You're not finding that in your polls?
No, not in the least. Yeah, people actually got beyond this in 2016. As much as I don't have as many feelings about the current candidates, but Hillary Clinton was pretty terrible, but she did win the popular vote. I think we've gone beyond this already. This is it's not really a thing in this country.
Well, Dustin and Nicole, thank you both very much indeed for joining us. Interesting conversation there.